We all believe in the soon second coming of Christ. However, there are many Bible passages claiming that Christ would return in our past, namely soon after his ascension. The Millennial Reign happened in our past? I didn't understand. However, I simply could not ignore these biblical statements, so I started an investigation. I discovered the biggest conspiracy in the history of mankind. Are you ready for the exposure of the biggest plot of the kings and rulers of the earth? During his life on earth, Jesus told his audience that he would return before they would pass away. Jesus specifically told them that the ones who pierced him would see him come back in the sky with the angels. Jesus prophesied 5 times his immediate return. The word "teki," translated by quickly, meant speedily, without delay. In all 3 Gospels, Jesus prophesied to his audience that they would see the abomination of desolation occur. Jesus prophesied that they would see all things come to pass while still alive on earth. Also, the prophecy that the gospel would be preached in all the world was fulfilled. The Bible confirmed 4 times that the gospel had been preached in all the world. However, history tells us a completely different story. Jesus did not appear in the clouds according to history. The abomination of desolation did not occur according to history. The Great Tribulation did not occur according to history. All the nations against Jerusalem did not occur according to history. Jerusalem mourning over Jesus did not occur according to history. Jesus' king over all the earth did not occur according to history. The Millennial Reign and the losing of the devil after expiration of the 1,000 years did not occur according to history. These 2 narratives cannot both be right. There are 2 possibilities. Either the Bible is right or history is right. I've got news for you. History is totally fabricated. The people of the New Testament were still alive when God's wrath fell upon the earth. The beginning of the end was an event called the Abomination of Desolation. The emperor, called the Beast, had to be worshipped like a god. Everybody had to take his mark. The angels appeared in the skies, surrounding the cities in Judea. Every eye saw Jesus come with the clouds of angels, even the ones who pierced him. Fire came from heaven, the elements melted in fervent heat. Unimaginable horror came upon those who had worshipped the beast. The ones who had not worshipped the beast were caught up in the clouds of angels to join the Lord. They reigned on earth 1,000 years. The kingdom and dominion and the greatest of the kingdom under the whole heaven was given to the people of the saints, the inhabitants of the Millennial Reign. Many nations would worship the Lord and keep the Feast of the Tabernacles. However, the nations that would not worship the Lord and not keep the Feast of the Tabernacles would be punished. There would also be sinners living in the Millennial Reign. The saints reigned with a rod of iron in the midst of enemy nations, who would be smitten by the wrath of God, indicating that there had been conflicts between nations during the Millennial Reign. During the Millennial Reign, the tactical sophistication was on an unprecedented level. Building methods far more sophisticated compared to today were used to build cities and beautiful structures. Everywhere was a supply of God's healing water and healing centers. The whole world was tropical, even on the North Pole and the South Pole. After expiration of the 1,000 years, the devil was loosed. Also the people who perished during the Great Tribulation came back to life. The renaissance of the Babylonian Empire was a fact. The French, Spanish, Dutch, English and Portuguese governments conquered the world, destroying everything. Millions were killed or enslaved. Today the new Babylonian Empire is called Europe, and the whole world is under control of their regime. The evil governments seized all apostolic libraries, turned them into humanistic libraries, looting and destroying many sacred documents of the followers of Christ. The Roman Church became a center of systematic censorship, suppressing facts and declaring inconvenient documents as fakes. They rewrote history, forged historic documents, flooded the world, adopted to the new history. Fake documents of the forefathers of Christianity were created to fool the masses. New calendars were introduced to accommodate the new history. Dispensationalism was introduced around the same time that the heliocentric model was invented by the humanists. Dispensationalism made people believe in the future second coming of Jesus. Even till a few hundred years ago, the people knew that the 1,000-year reign and the losing of the devil occurred in their past. Hence the Geneva Bible referring to the losing of the devil in the past. The 1,000 years falls precisely upon the time that the wicked Hildebrand, who was called Gregory VII, a most damnable necromancer and sorcerer, whom Satan used as an instrument when he was loosed out of bonds, thenceforth to annoy the saints of God with most cruel persecutions, and the whole world with dissensions and most bloody wars. The heliocentric model, which is the globe spinning through space, was also invented by the humanists. However, till a few hundred years ago, the people knew that the earth was flat. The camp of the saints, also called the Holy City of God with Mount Zion, was clearly drawn on the flat earth maps. The Holy City of God with Mount Zion were located on the sides of the north. The word Joreko, translated to sides, also means quarters. So the city of God and Mount Zion were located on the quarters of the north. On the old flat earth maps, the continent around the North Pole was clearly visible and consisted of 4 quarters. The passage of Revelation 20 verse 9 specifies, "I will compassing about the camp of the saints, also called the Holy City of God, with Mount Zion, located on the quarters of the north." It suddenly makes sense. The invention of the heliocentric model took care of the erasing of the continent around the North Pole. No person would come up with the idea that the camp of the saints and the Holy City of God with Mount Zion would actually have existed on Earth. After all, we now spin through space, compassing about the sun on a ball with nothing to see on the North Pole. How convenient. This is the world map divided by time zones. In order to see that something is not adding up, let us rearrange this map and put Alaska and Russia in the middle. The left side is the end of Russia, the right side is Alaska. Between Russia and Alaska there is the Bering Strait. Russia and Alaska are 53 miles apart. However, there are 2 to 3 time zones missing. When it is 7 a.m. on the Russian side, it is 11 a.m. in Alaska. This would be the size of 2 time zones. Are they hiding a continent the size of half the USA? On a 400-year-old world map, a big continent was drawn that does not exist anymore. This continent was called Terra de Jesel. Is that the land of Jesus? It stretched right along the continent of the four quarters of the north into Greenland. Is that the continent that is hidden in the 2 elusive time zones? The people of the saints were deceived into rejecting the reign of the saints. The followers of the saints were persecuted, killed, crucified on mass trials, or locked up in lunatic asylums. Millions of people were starved to death. Their children were seized and put into massive brainwash orphanages, after which they were put to slave labor in factories or on farms. Babies were seized and raised in incubator centers. The great fires occurred, conveniently destroying all old cities with their archives. The great wars occurred, killing many people, burning down many structures, and bombing most ancient buildings that revealed the old days. To this day, wars are fought with the aim of destroying evidence of the true history. Imagine what would happen if the whole world would know that we were robbed of the holy reign of the saints, where our ancestors lived in peace in a tropical world with an unprecedented level of technology, free healing centers, free fountains of living water, free energy, and travel on airships. Our law was the Bible and the holy manuscripts of the 1000-year reign that were seized by the satanists and hidden in the basements of the Vatican. Today, the secret cults own all governments. The world leaders all worship the same God. The secret cults own the media. All information of the media and the news channels worldwide funnels to the Commission on Foreign Relations, who determines what the public is allowed to know. They control the official science narrative. Science, falsely so called, is used to deceive us into believing that we live on a spinning ball, speeding through space. Scripture clearly testifies that the earth is situated within a firmament, which is situated under waters, with waters above and waters below the firmament. The pancake floating in space was created to ridicule the biblical creation. The pictures of the globe are not what they seem. They are computer-generated imageries. NASA.gov. Then we wrapped the flat map around a ball. My part was integrating the surface, clouds and oceans to match people's expectations on how Earth looks like from space. That ball became the famous blue marble. Here you see the pictures of the globe. Do you see any irregularities? The USA grew 30% between 1978 and 2012. The Gulf of Mexico blew up to be a giant. And here's a close-up showing the incredible creativity. Copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Whoever chose the name NASA was mocking Christianity. NASA is the word translated as beguiled. The NASA scientists claim to have taken a picture of the Earth from the moon. However, when investigating the picture with Photoshop, the picture turned out to be fake.
They are images that inspire, educate, and sometimes just make us say, wow.
Yeah.
Over the years, NASA has given us spectacular photos and renderings that reveal a colorful and mysterious universe.
No doubt. And now Chris Martinez is introducing us to two of the artists behind some of the most iconic space art in the galaxy.
In a small, bright office, working side by side,
Let's see.
Robert Hurt and Tim Pyle bring the universe to life.
What we're doing does have real science underlying it.
Robert is an astrophysicist turned artist. Tim, once a Hollywood animator, is now a planet illustrator. Together, they produce some of NASA's most popular images, from renderings of how planets light years away could look, to actual photos of stars and galaxies captured by NASA's powerful telescopes.
And this is sort of how it comes to me. And then
Many of those images have a dark, grainy start, but color and light reveal an astonishing glimpse of how the deepest regions of space might appear to the human eye.
What I'm trying to do is show people sort of the broader colors that the universe has to offer.
It's a delicate blend of imagination and data. The artists meet with NASA scientists over many drafts to ensure a planet or galaxy's look lines up with the research to make each one as accurate as possible.
I love the challenge. It's kind of like a puzzle to me of trying to create something that looks really cool within the restrictions that were given by the scientists.
It can take days, even weeks, to produce just a single image. The dazzling final results, enough to keep us all dreaming of the final frontier for years to come. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Pasadena, California.
The artists also say they have to be especially careful when it comes to illustrations of other planets to avoid colors many of us would associate with Earth, like blue for water.
When we look for the proof of curvature, we do find that there are some mainstream imagery and videos out there that show us just that, like this helicopter dipping below the curve. However, I am thankful that humble truth seekers with eyes to see have spotted some things that prove that these once trusted resources for our scientific information that we received on a daily basis are liars. They are deceiving us and our children, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can see for yourself and watch this breakdown by Ben from Taboo Conspiracy, who exposes the fraud that should not be needed if we did in fact live on a curved and moving surface.
But what makes the PBS video so rotten is that this helicopter event was entirely fabricated and it's provable. Remember, PBS claimed that the helicopter descended behind the curvature and then came up from behind the curvature of the Earth back into view of the telescope. But as you will see, when the helicopter descends, there's a group of birds with a peculiar flight pattern. And then when the helicopter subsequently ascends, the same birds appear and in the same exact flight pattern. Not only that, the waves match as well. Only the image of the helicopter changes, meaning that the helicopter video was added.
Now, thank you, Ben, for breaking that down for us so that we can see it. And thank you, Father, for sending birds, these 3 birds, to expose this lie. Without those birds, this would be a lot harder to prove as fraudulent, and they went through at the exact right time. and these deceivers were caught. Doesn't always happen, and there's a lot of proofs they have that are very difficult to distinguish between reality and lies, because they have poured everything they have into this lie.
During the SpaceX rocket launch, there was an uninvited guest. Why do the rats always spoil everything?
An appropriate range where we should be. So that essentially just means that we're within the expected and appropriate range where we should be. So that, again, we use that term nominal, and that essentially just means that we're within the expected and appropriate range.
We're being fooled on national television. At the background they show the false footage of the Earth. The whole live CBS News broadcast is fiction. The military and the aviation industry have to program their flight software in accordance with the curvature, if the curvature would exist. The specifications of the curvature should be programmed within the software of the missiles and the airplanes to prevent them from flying into space, of course, if we live on a globe. If in reality we live on a flat non-rotating Earth, the missiles and airplanes would crash if programmed with the globe assumption. The satanists can lie to the whole world but cannot lie in their operating software. Is their software programmed for the globe or programmed for a flat Earth? Here we have Aerospace Research Central. Here you can find that document. A ballistic vehicle entering the atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. If you go further downward, considering a re-entry vehicle entering the atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Army Research Laboratory. Page 11. The first is the Earth Fixed Coordinate System, which is fixed to the Earth with a flat Earth assumption. A simulator error model implementation, written by Thomas S. Alderate with a small letter 1 behind it, and we go a little bit downward. NASA Ames Research Center in Muffet Field. Page 3. For this derivation, a non-rotating Earth will be assumed. Page number 10. For a flat non-rotating Earth considered here. You can look up these documents yourself. I found them on the internet. Army Research Laboratory. Propagation of electromagnetic fields over a flat Earth. You can find it here. Propagation over electromagnetic fields over flat Earth. Here we have ResearchGate. ResearchGate put that publication. Page 5, it said the object can be estimated using a flat Earth model. Here we're also using a flat Earth model. Atmospheric refraction errors for optical instrumentation. This is an old document. Technical memorandum. Published by Systems Engineering Branch. Here we have validity over flat Earth assumption. The relationship is correct over a flat Earth and a flat atmosphere. Here we have the map of the flat Earth. Now what happens if we turn this map clockwise? Lo and behold, the United Nations use the same flat Earth in their logo. So does the World Health Organization, so does the World Meteorological Organization, so does the International Maritime Organization, and so does the International Civil Aviation Organization. globe flying through space was used to lie about ancient alien advanced civilizations who supposedly left the Earth millions of years ago. And this is what Scripture said. The great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Satan himself is transformed into the angel of light. These so-called extraterrestrial civilizations are these wicked fallen angels. They transform themselves into anything you can imagine. Even the flying saucers are one big hoax. Hitler built the first flying saucer in the 1930s, almost 100 years ago. The Satanists created the evolutionary model to explain away the once tropical temperatures on the whole Earth. Millions of years ago is the lie, conveniently concealing the truth about the worldwide tropical temperatures during the Millennial Reign that was present on the Earth till a few hundred years ago. Changing the dates is their main weapon, to explain away archaeological discoveries. They invented the dating methods they could use to manipulate the masses. They fabricated a total new history, overwriting all history between Jesus' time on Earth and 300 years ago. Thousands of historians do not believe the official historic narrative, hence the studies of Fomenko. The so-called consensual history is a finely woven magic fabric of intricate lies about events predating the 15th century. There is not one single piece of firm written evidence or artifact that could be reliably and independently traced back earlier than the 11th century. The dating methods of ancient sources and artifacts are both non-exact and contradictory. There is extensive proof by many historic critics that the period before 1100 AD was totally fabricated. What are the Satanists hiding? They're hiding the existence of the Millennial Reign with all its might and glory. And they are hiding their invasion of the millennial kingdoms. And they are hiding the historic presence of the holy city of God, Mount Zion, the camp of the saints and the beloved city. The Satanists created dispensationalism, the belief in a future second coming of Christ. For this purpose, the Satanists created Israel in 1948 and made the religious futurists believe that the establishment of Israel was the fulfillment of God's prophecy.
Well, I'm going to start a prophetic timeline back at 1948, and we're going to bring it up current, and we're going to look at prophecies that have been fulfilled. Number one, this is prophetic fulfillment number one, 1948, Israel reborn for the second time, Isaiah 11. It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left from Assyria and Egypt, from Pathros and Cush, from Elam and Shinar, from Hamath and the islands of the sea. He will set up a banner for the nations, and he will assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Well, so Israel is the only nation in the history of the world that has been dispossessed twice and has come back. The first time they were dispossessed is around 500 BC, the Babylonians came, defeated Israel, and took them out of the land and took them to Babylon. And after 70 years, they returned to the nation of Israel. So they were reborn for the first time. The second time they were reborn is in AD 70. The Romans killed over 1 million Jews, took the rest of them and took them captive back to Rome. They ultimately were scattered around the world. And then in 1948, for the second time, the only nation that has come back two times, in 1948, in one day, Israel became a nation.
According to dispensationalism, that is the belief in a future second coming of Jesus and in a future millennial reign, between 70 AD and 1948 AD, there has not been any other recovery of the remnant of God's people. But how do they know that between 70 AD and 1948 AD there's not been any other returns of the Jews to Israel? Because according to them, there is nothing mentioned in history about a second return to Israel, Jesus' return, or the 1,000-year reign in our past. But how do they know that history is right? Yet they believe in a future second coming of Jesus, and the future millennial reign is based on this history. The remnants of God's people, mentioned in Isaiah 11 verse 11 and 12, were assembled for the second time around 200 AD. The history of Israel records the majority of Israel being Jews by 300 AD. By the 4th century, Israel was a Christian nation. According to the text, in the 1st and 2nd century, not all Jews were killed, expelled, or sold into slavery. In the 3rd century AD, the majority of the population of Israel was Jew again. By the 4th century, Israel was a Christian nation. So the outcasts of Israel were assembled by the 3rd century AD. Israel became a Christian nation by the 4th century AD. And this would have correlated with the establishment of the 1,000-year reign within the 1st centuries AD. The end times prophecy of today are contrary to all biblical prophecies. If only the Christian society would stick to the word, they would not be deceived. Our belief in their deception is the cause that God's holy city was taken away from earth. The continent with the 4 quarters of the north disappeared around the same time when dispensationalism and heliocentrism was invented. The city of God is synonymous with God's presence on earth. The decree of Revelation 22 verse 19 stated that if the book of this prophecy were to be changed, God would take away our part of the holy city. Although this decree could be understood spiritually, the city of God on the quarters of the north has also been physically removed in the same era when we changed I come quickly into I come 2,000 years later. The change of belief from a past 1,000-year reign into a future 1,000-year reign generated God's final decree of Revelation 22 verse 19 to come into reality. God took away the holy city. The Satanists know about this decree. Their conspiracy consists of deceiving the people into believing in a future second coming of Christ. As long as the people believe this lie, the absence of the city of God will leave the world at the mercy of the Satanists. It's the most important weapon for maintaining the power on earth. Although we do not see the city of God, there are signs of the presence of the city of God. Explorers have claimed to have visited the continent on the North Pole. They testified of giants who lived to be 1,000 years old and singing hymns. They worshipped what the explorers called a smoky god. There are more signs of the existence of the holy city of God. The northern light is clearly visible, reflecting the colors of the holy city of God. Even the North Star Polaris, the only star on a fixed position in the constellation, is shining as bright as the Star of Bethlehem, we know so well from the Bible. Is the holy city of God still on earth, hidden from our eyes because of our own unbelief? What if the Christians repent and believe the word? Would that reverse the decree and make the city of God reappear on earth?